we've been told one simple fact. If you intelligence, move your data to the intelligence platform. This became our default assumption. It became our default thought process. And this becomes a pattern in every cloud migration, every digital transformation, and in every AI program. But today, in a zero trust world, that assumption becomes our liability. Why? Because the moment your data moves, it leaves boundaries. And the moment the data leaves boundaries, it causes risk. And it becomes someone else's responsibility to manage that. And in this kind of high stakes environment, especially when you're looking at sitting on a CXO seat, a risk becomes a biggest nightmare. And today, we are exploring one of the high stakes landscapes in the history of digital transformation. First, we have a perfect storm of change. We have digitization exploding. We have sophisticated cyber threats. And we have AI accelerating development faster than governance could catch. And adding to that, you have geopolitical uncertainties and lot of regulations coming in. Now with this combination, data and trust is the most fragile part of any enterprise today. The other is the boardroom imperative. Data boundaries used to be a topic of the IT department. Today, you have CXOs and boardrooms getting involved in making decisions. Over 70 plus countries have data localization norms implemented. And if you don't comply, it leads to penalties, losses, lost opportunities, and more than that, we lose our credibility. Today, in this context, data decisions is a topic that every CXO is worried about. Whether you manage the infrastructure or not, you are responsible if there is a data breach. Then you have the rising investments and expectations coming up. Despite the turbulence in the market, investments in AI budgets continue to grow. CEOs are under pressure, modernizing infrastructure and staying up to the trend to what the market is offering. The zero trust architecture to build secure systems is no longer optional. It's becoming inevitable. And the cost of standing still is now costlier than the cost of change. And this is bringing us into a whole different landscape. It's putting us into a time pressure that if we don't act, the price that we will pay is much higher. And so, that assumption that we did for the last decade is no longer going to be applicable to the coming decade. We are in a time you cannot afford to move data into the intelligence platform. we need a whole different way of thinking. And that brings us to the whole thought process that intelligence must come to the data, not the other way around. This should become a fundamental assumption. This should become the model in which that we will build any intelligence system. That intelligence should run in the boundary of the data, not data in the boundary of intelligence. But every time the world keeps telling us, migrate your data to the cloud, magic will happen. Put your data to an AI platform, magic will happen. And there are tons of companies out there, tons of startups out there, doing something or the other with AI. All of them demand one thing, that you put your data there and they will give you results. A typical model of a lot of SaaS companies. But today that becomes our biggest threat. And so, if intelligence has to come to data, then we have a new mandate. For analytics and AI, we need to deliver intelligence to where the data resides, without transferring it, without increasing the attack surface. Earlier, we used to be in a world where when you move data for analytics, we used to consider it as progress. We used to consider it as innovation. Today, the fundamental question is, at the cost of what? Losing control? Most of the time when you give your data to the outside world, outside of your boundary, the data is no longer under your control. The only steps we had taken in the past was enforcing NDAs, enforcing policies that define, okay, what happens in the case of a breach. But if there is a breach, the damage is too huge to bear. We were watching in the news, I think 3 months ago, Salesforce's OpenID platform was breached. And a lot of large companies got affected. We cannot take the risk of someone else managing our data, no matter how good they are. So this assumption needs to change. So that brings us to who we are. We are a software company, DBTs, who believes in one single conviction, that data should never leave its boundaries and intelligence should be brought to the data. And based on this principle, we built a concept or a model called the Zero Trust Orchestration Model. What this does is sets the basis or the foundation through which you can actually deliver intelligence, including advanced computing, including AI, agentic workflows, straight to where the data resides, without moving it, without copying it elsewhere, or without exposing it. Now, on this platform, we built a product which is called Kazale. But at the base of it is this whole principle of zero trust orchestration. Now, what this does, this is not a product by itself, but it's a concept that defines what the modern product should contain. And it runs on all the principles of zero trust today. One is policy first execution. What it does is it enforces policies on every little data element or data source that you have in the environment. Which means it's not at the final results level, like what most of the products out there in the market do. It is at the source level. So if you're touching 10 different data sources, you can put policies on each and every data source, each and every table level, and you can set who should be able to access what. Then you have no implicit access given to anyone. This is at the source, data source level. That means don't trust anything, verify everything. That's the principle on which this is built. Which means even if you're inside the boundary, you have to be authenticated, you have to be, your access should be verified, and the policy should be enforced. Then the entire intelligence platform, including the computes, the pipelines, the way the data is transformed, how it is summarized, how it is computed and delivered to the user, everything happens in boundary. It can be orchestrated from outside, but it has to be executed from within. And the last part is the rules behind auditability. Most of the time, we take it for granted that when some audit log is maintained on who accessed the data, that audit log is secure. How many of us think audit logs is harmless? Audit logs is one of the most sensitive part of the infrastructure. So when you have audit logs being generated and your service provider is somewhere sitting on the cloud, what happens is your audit logs are exposed. In this principle that we built, auditing is always happening on the local environment, not on the cloud. Every orchestration happens on the local environment. Audit logs get generated on the local environment. It is securely saved, and even the audit logs go through the same policy first execution to give access to who it has to be given to. Now on this platform, we built Kezel. What Kezel does, it executes intelligence inside the customer's boundaries. Now, how this works is, it has two parts to it. We brought in a concept of network isolation. One is the service provider's network or the control plane, and the other is the customer's network or the execution plane. From the service provider's side, all instructions are orchestrated and delivered, but it is always through a one-way communication. Nothing leaves the customer's boundary. So when there is a request that's placed or a workload that is given to the customer's environment, we don't even get a status report saying that that process executed successfully or not. Why? Because that is breach of privacy. So according to the zero trust model, all that you will get back is the process was successfully submitted to the customer side. What happens on that side is completely private to the customer. So just as how I was talking about the audit logs, the entire orchestration happens on the customer's end. The workflows have their own logging, and it has to go through the same policy first and verification method for you to actually get a report on whether something was successful or not. And who gets access to it? It's only the customer, not the service providers, not the analysts, not the contractors who are involved in the job. So this also provides a unified environment to orchestrate AI, orchestrate analytics. It gives you dashboards. It gives you everything unified. But at the end of it, every data that flows into your dashboard does not come from an external network. It comes from a local network. And it works across structured data, unstructured data. It is designed for highly sensitive systems where any form of data that's leaving that system could cause a huge vulnerability. How does it work? Basically, it involves 4 different steps. The first is the policies. Since it's a policy first orchestration, the policies define what the data boundaries are. Now, when I say data boundaries here by policies, so one is setting a data boundary for the entire organization. No data leaves the organization. No data leaves the customer premises. That is one boundary. Within that, KSAIL enforces something called micro boundaries. These boundaries can be defined at any given level. It could be at a user level, saying that this user has access to only this much of data. It's a policy enforcement and setting a boundary for that user. It could be set at a team level, department level. It could be set at a role level, persona level, or it could be even conditional based on certain factors, certain data access is made available. Now, these policies define those micro boundaries. And these micro boundaries get enforced at multiple levels at source. That means if there are 10 tables involved, you can define at a fine-grained level which table should enforce what policy. So it sort of sets guardrails even for your LLMs or your AI workloads to pick up. Now, these boundaries, once it's enforced, the workloads are sent straight into the customer network. So the workflows actually flow to the data, not the other way around. We were so used to a concept where we always give data into the cloud for a workflow to happen. But here we bring the workflow straight into the data. And then the intelligence is orchestrated in the local boundary of the data. That's where the data resides. Once the intelligence is orchestrated, the result of that research, the result of that workflow, result from a dashboard or from a table or from a compute is provided only within the boundary. That means the results also remain inside. Which means to be able to see the result of that particular flow, the user or the persona needs to be within that boundary. So if you're part of that organization, you will be able to see it. But if you're outside the organization, then you need some kind of a VPN or something like that for you to be able to see that. Though the orchestration happens from outside, the data has to come in from your own network. So we rely on that network security layer to provide you that access. Now, what does this unlock for an enterprise? First thing, it gives you faster decisions without risk. We have capability of doing a federated access. That means, think of it as you have a Salesforce API giving you data. You have a table sitting on a Hadoop cluster. And you have a table sitting on, say, a Postgres database or an Oracle database. You can do a real-time query joining these resources. Now, I know there are many tools there that gives you capabilities for real-time queries. And most of them will tell you, okay, I can give you real-time access to Salesforce. I can give you real-time access to Oracle Fusion. But can you join data in real time between Fusion, Oracle Fusion, Salesforce, and probably a table sitting on your database? We give you that capability. But do we eliminate the need for a data warehouse? Not completely. Because there are sometimes use cases where having a data warehouse, having a summary will make sense for performance. But what we are trying to bring in as a feature or as a concept is that you will be able to make access to real-time data that's available, which could also include a warehouse. But you don't have to um, basically you don't have to uh, expose this to a network outside of your network. And it gives you also a very strong security posture. That is, even if you're within the network, it's always trust nothing, verify everything. Which means even if a user belongs to your organization, he needs to go through those policies to actually make that access to that data. What else does it achieve? Compliance by design. Today we are in a context where most of the time compliance becomes an afterthought. You implement something and then you need to comply. You keep scrambling, putting things together to check those boxes. With this design, we have taken care of compliance right from the architecture side, which means it's so easy to check the boxes. If you want to get a SOC 2 certification, it's easy because we are not taking data out. So the data access policies, we automatically check it. You look at HIPAA, you look at GDPR, you look at CCPA. Now we have this new compliance coming in from India, DPDP. All of it, it's very easy. Of course, you have to take care of the organization side. But from the data compliance side, we are not even taking anything out. There were technologies like pseudonymization, de-pseudonymization, encryption, data scrambling, because when you give your data out, you want to ensure that people cannot make sense out of it. Today, AI can do a great job even reading pseudonymized data and making sense out of it. We eliminate that use case here. And again, faster innovation cycles. You don't need to break your head in trying to put layers of security. Focus on your core business. We ensure that the design itself provides security by default. So where is this model most powerful? So simply comes down to wherever data exposure creates risk, this model of in-boundary intelligence gives you that advantage. So whether it is banking, finance, insurance, or whether it is healthcare, life sciences, whether it is research, whether it's pharma research or automobile research, manufacturing, supply chain, where data should not leave the boundary, this model fits all these use cases. However, if you look at the industry, though we have put in just 4 major titles on the slide, every industry has the same barrier. Every industry has the same problem. And this model of zero trust orchestration just eliminates that barrier. What makes our solution different? First, the in-boundary intelligence, which is our core invention. We filed a patent on this last year, and this year we filed a continuation patent on that, focusing on orchestrating AI agents as well, with the same technology that we were using it to access data. So today, we specialize in boundary intelligence consulting. The other is consulting strength is coming from the real world. This was not a concept that we just created. It came out of a problem that we were trying to solve. We were a data engineering and a data analytics company. We were working with banks in the US. And this was the problem statement that we came across. The banks told us, we cannot give you our data. So if you're expecting to get a copy of our data, you want to analyze it, give it back to us, then that's just ruled out. So we thought at that point, okay, why not do it the other way around? We'll give you an on-prem solution. We will run our intelligence in your boundary, in your network, but it's an on-prem implementation of it. And they said, no, we can't let you in because you cannot see our data as well. Leave alone taking the data out, we won't let you see it. And we set after solving that problem. Most of these banks, they are okay with having a suboptimal MIS team that can deliver something in the form of intelligence. But they cannot take the risk of giving their data out. So even the big giants who are there, specializing in the analytics area, they lose out on this opportunity. What we did, by solving this problem with zero trust orchestration, we opened this door. Today it's possible to give a complete SaaS solution of analytics without taking a single byte of data out of that environment. I repeat, not even a single byte of data goes out of that environment. As I said, the only status report that you get is submitted it. You don't even get a success message out. That is the level at which we engineered this, including user interaction. Whatever the user puts in as variables, as the inputs on the screen, even that is processed locally. It's only the software that is rendered through the browser remotely. Again, the engineering depth that makes intelligence real. We have core engineering expertise where we bring it from a point of performance, from a point of simplicity, and to a point of architecting complex zero trust environments. Whether it is analytics or not, but we specialize in consulting in that space. And lastly is our commitment to security, governance, and long-term partnerships with companies. We have been focusing in this space. Our commitment is that companies should be able to harness the power of data, harness the power of technology evolution without losing the control they have on the data. Because the day someone loses control on their data, you lose that very advantage that you have in your business because you have already given your data out. You're no longer unique. That is what we want to protect. And that is what we want to shake hands with companies. That is what is the space that we want to bring value. So this is an invitation. Let's build a secure intelligence together. So I want to open up different models over here. One is you want to pilot, you want to build a proof of concept. You want to see your intelligence workflows run in your boundary. Yeah, come bring your use cases. We'll help you all achieve that. We are looking for strategic partners who can co-create specific sector intelligence layers for us. And we could own solutions together. The thing is, for any new technology to evolve, you need early movers. We need leaders who can think into the next decade and not just look at what today requirements are. And if you're a visionary, you want to create specific areas, you want to be one among that few who would like to move early, come reach out to us. Technology collaboration and integration. Okay, if you want to bring secure intelligence into your products, we are ready to partner there. We are ready to open those doors. we are ready to unlock some areas for y'all where it was not even possible to deliver a solution on that platform. Or if you want to re-architect the way something is already working, we are open to that too, in the form of advisory, consulting, or if you just want to just talk to us and understand new ways of handling it, we can help you there. But why should you trust this model? First thing, this is not theory what I'm saying. This is already working in the field. We have already implemented this in banking. There are multiple banks, especially in the United States, using this technology, meeting all the compliance, and running successfully. We did a POC for a healthcare. We are currently running it in logistics, and we are trying to unlock every possible industry. Again, from an architecture point of view, this is enterprise-grade architecture. We have a SOC 2 Type 2 compliance already. But from a design point, it is security by design. And this just unlocks new possibilities in terms of how your data can be protected. Again, backed by deep industry experience. We working in multiple industry segments helps us understand deep industry requirements. And we meet those standards. And then the zero trust orchestration, which is our patent pending model. It sort of backs us. We have an early mover or first mover advantage into this platform. And again, there is nothing, absolutely nothing out there in the world that gives you a solution to this combination of problems. The future of intelligence is in boundary, where intelligence runs inside environments that protect it. There was a time, we all know, that we took data out of secure systems to actually provide intelligence and analytics. But that era is gone. Today, more than giving you an advantage, it exposes you to attackers. The future is about running intelligence inside the environments that protect that data, so that the same protection is applicable for the intelligence. The same protection acts as guardrails for your AI implementations. As your technology evolves, we need to also ensure that all the guardrails are in place to ensure that your privacy and your data protection is taken care of. And with that, I want to say a thank you for all of you all being here. And I can take questions at this point.